we got power rankings, you guys, because today is our other 1 p.m. show this week. We will be doing a post-series show tomorrow and Friday, so make sure to join us for that. But Jesse, power rankings time. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's take a look at
let's show them power rankings.
No change at the top.
Yeah, it's kind of boring this week, honestly. The Rays, Rangers, and Astros are still all 1, 2, 3. I got a little bit close to putting the Rangers number 1 because they're just an absolute madhouse right now.
They're
crazy. 40-20. They have the best run differential in baseball, including over the Tampa Bay Rays. But
the Rays coming back down to earth? Do you feel like that?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, they're still playing pretty darn good baseball right now. So the Rays hold on to number 1, Rangers number 2. I did mix some things up in the middle here. I have the Braves moving up a couple spots to number 4.
That loss really impacted you, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, they beat the D-backs 2 out of 3. They must be the best team in baseball.
Must be the best team in baseball. Well, they are the best team in the National League as far as record-wise, so they do deserve to be up there.
Yeah, and then the Orioles, I know there's still going to be some people who are angry that I have the Orioles at number 5.
Yeah.
I think I should have them at least like top 3 or something, but they've cooled off a little bit of late, and they're still about plus 40 on the season. Their run differential really doesn't compare with some of the other top teams in the league. I remain a little bit skeptical of their pitching staff. Rough week for the Dodgers. They've lost 3 games in a row, paving the way for the D-backs to take the lead in the NL West. They're struggling right now without both Dustin May and Julio Urias. They don't have maybe quite as much pitching depth as they've had in past years in order to weather that storm. The Yankees, it feels like they've been at number 7 for like 4 weeks in a row. They stay there.
Pretty sure it's been exactly 4 weeks in a row.
I think I'm right on that. It just apparently the Yankees are just by definition the 7th best team in baseball, and the D-backs are pretty much by definition the 8th best team in baseball because they've also sat there for a while. The other thing
I don't understand, how are the D-backs not above the Dodgers, Jesse? How are the D-backs not above the Dodgers?
Or the Yankees? I like them.
Who is the number 1 team in the National League West? Is it the D-backs or the Dodgers? I just want you to answer that question.
But power rankings are not the same as standings, Derek.
Not in my head.
As much as I know it would make everyone so happy if I did do that. I'm not quite there yet. The Dodgers are plus 54. I believe the D-backs are plus 24. And I still think in the long term, once the Dodgers get healthy again, they're going to be in a pretty good spot. Not to say the D-backs couldn't surprise some people and win the NL West, but right now I'm not betting on that just yet.
They're definitely going to have to pad that lead. Like the Diamondbacks have to take advantage of the easier part of this schedule in June and do everything they can to take advantage of the Dodgers not playing good baseball right now. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's the only way they can do it. And I know that sounds very desperate, but like they really do need to have a sense of urgency. Despite this not even being the middle point of the season, about this part of the schedule, I feel like.
Yeah.
I would like to see them run away with it, obviously, but I wouldn't hate seeing a good old-fashioned race for the division at the end of the year. Like just a good last day of the season type thing. Who wins the division?
Yeah.
My concern with that is like what Jesse said about the Dodgers is I feel like the Dodgers are going to get pieces back. They're going to get Dustin May back. They're going to get Julio Urias back, and they're just going to be an extremely good team. And in the meantime, they're going to have figured out ways to win without those guys. Much like what we're seeing with the Texas Rangers. Now the Texas Rangers lose DeGrom for the season, and it doesn't feel like that is going to hinder them. It doesn't feel like that's going to hold them back from being one of the best teams in baseball.
I don't get that.
I don't either. But like this was a team that just spent $500 million with a B on players just a few off seasons ago and didn't see that immediate return. But baseball is like that. You don't see an immediate return sometimes when you spend the money. It takes a while for teams to galvanize and come together. That's kind of what's been the most impressive thing about this Diamondbacks team is with the additions that they've brought on, those additions have become such a part of this team, including Lourdes and this goddamn purple hair that I have and we're seeing on TV. Like other people out there in Washington Nationals, there was a guy in a Dodger or in a Diamondbacks uniform with purple hair at the Nationals game. It's catching on. It's the Lourdes Gurriel fever is catching this country by storm. But like the Diamondbacks have done a good job at bringing a lot of parts together that weren't part of this team last year. And those parts have been key to them being in the position that they're in right now.
My number 10 team is the Miami Marlins. And to be honest, at this point, I'm just like cycling through different teams.
You're just throwing them up there.
Just like giving them their chance. I had the Mariners last year. Yeah. They had a bit of a rough week. I've had the Twins on there in the past. But the Marlins are
5 straight.
34 and
401.
28. I continue to be skeptical because they've allowed like 30 more runs than they've scored. But Luis Arraez is hitting 400, and apparently that's all they need, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The man hits 22%. 22% of his hits are hard hit. 95 mile per hour exit velo or more. 22%. That's crazy.
That's really low.
That is
Yeah.
crazy. You
Very
know.
low.
So
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think their success is very sustainable, like winning close games and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't know how much longer they can keep doing it to where I have to give up that take. Like if they keep winning close games, then I guess it is sustainable. But
well, and that's something that you could say about the Diamondbacks at times, because the Diamondbacks haven't found like their thing that they're good at. Like when you look back at their wins, there's not one thing that's always there. There's not one thing that always consistently gives them advantages in games. You could say that maybe a bit about their speed and their base running, because we've seen that, but even that is only when they're kind of a complete team.
Yeah.
When Jake McCarthy wasn't up here, it didn't feel like this team was stealing bases. When Corbin Carroll wasn't allowed to go 100%, there was no chaos being created on the base path. But there are some other teams that are kind of in weird positions as well, especially good teams. St. Louis Cardinals, 25 and 37 currently. That's not good, Jesse.
It's not good.
They would have to roughly win 62 of their remaining 100 games in order.
That would be in order to win 87 games, which is generally pretty tough to make the playoffs without winning at least 87 games. Although they play in the Central.
I was going to say, if there was a division to be in that situation,
I mean, maybe the Central, the team that wins the Central this year is going to be like 82 and 80 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, there's this narrative that the Cardinals are the most talented team in the Central, and honestly, I kind of buy into that narrative. I think the Cardinals are the most talented team in the Central, and yet they lose every single day. They have lost 5 games in a row. They've lost 8 out of 10.
And the Pirates aren't slowing down, even though they've lost to the A's.
They've lost back-to-back games to the A's, which is sort of the definition of
Braves,
slowing down.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
Braves
true.
lost
The Braves,
3 straight to the A's.
Teams
or
are
2-8. No, that was back-to-back, yeah.
Teams are apparently losing to the A's now. Apparently that's a thing. That's accepted in the baseball landscape now. But yeah, the Central is just weird. The Central is bizarre, and the Reds have Ellie De La Cruz, and I'm not entirely convinced that the Reds won't win this thing when it's all said and done. It feels like everything's on the table.
That comeback victory over the Dodgers was absolutely electric last night.
Impressive.
It's what put our Diamondbacks into first place in the National League West.
It gets back to what you were saying earlier about like where are the trade candidates, because even like the Cardinals, like you said, are probably the best team on paper, and they're last in the division. That people talk about some of the potential trade candidates for the Reds, but like you said, they're 5 games back in the division.
And the Cardinals aren't going to have some fire sale just because they don't make the division. Like they know
you wouldn't think so. You wouldn't think so.
You wouldn't think so, but you never know.
I listened to the Round Table. It's one of the athletic shows yesterday, and they were talking about the Cardinals trading one Paul Goldschmidt at the trade deadline.
Stop it.
Power bat.
Stop power bat.
Yeah, right-handed power bat, right? No, I mean maybe it would make some sense for the Cardinals to not like sell off pieces, but maybe retool a little bit. They do have a bit of a traffic jam in their outfield, much like the Diamondbacks had and sort of still have. So I could see the Cardinals selling off like a pretty good major league caliber player, but yeah, by and large, I mean, none of those teams in the Central are out of it at this point. I think they all could talk themselves into being able to win that division.
Well, and that's the National League as a whole, right? I mean, look at your power rankings. Like, you're dangerously close to only having 3 National League teams on your power rankings.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Nationals probably not going to make the playoffs. The Rockies probably not going to make the playoffs. Is there any other team right now in the National League that is like
completely out of it?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, yeah, it's crazy when you look at the standings, because there's the Braves, but like all the best on paper rosters in the league or in the National League are like not playing well. Right. The Mets spent a whole bunch of money. Obviously, we already talked about the Cardinals,
30 and 31, and lost 4 straight.
I mean, the Dodgers are whatever. Like they're with injuries too. and they've lost 3 straight. I don't know, but like the Padres, like they spent a bunch of money, and obviously all those teams have like their problems, but.
Yeah,
Padres on paper should have been very good.
Padres are 5 games below 500 currently, and that's just crazy considering, as Jesse pointed out in our notes, that they have a +9 run differential.
Yeah.
Like
Still minus money, minus odds to make the playoffs.
Some of their wins have been substantial wins, but they're just not winning consistently. And like their offense shows up in bunches and then completely disappears. And I know that's something we've talked about with the Diamondbacks, but man, the Padres are even more frustrating if you're a Padres fan, because that they're like, again, when you talk about the what happens to an entire team when everybody can't hit. Well, that's the Padres at times, and it's got to be frustrating considering the talent that they have in that dugout.
I mean, specifically with runners in scoring position, the Padres are like otherworldly levels of bad right now. That's a big part of the issues.
Yeah, I think I'd seen a stat that no team ever has finished below 200 with runners in scoring position. And last time, it was before the weekend, but last time I saw they were batting 196 with runners in scoring position.
So
crazy.
They are close to being, like you said, historically bad with runners in scoring position.
It's such a weird thing that happens on all-star teams like that, because I have this theory that, again, and we might have even talked about on the show, but like a lot of these guys were the best player on their team up until this point in life. And even when they reached the majors, they might have, like a Juan Soto, a Manny Machado, they might have still been the best player on their team even once they reached the major league level.
Won a World Series MVP, didn't he not?
Right. But then you get them together in this collaborated kind of like all-star team situation. And it almost feels like they are all kind of letting the other, because they have so many other studs around them that they don't have to be the guy anymore. And I don't know if that impacts players. I don't know. I don't think that's the situation with the Diamondbacks when their offense all goes cold. So I think it's just this weird thing that happens in baseball where an entire team can kind of be in a slump. But I'm glad they are struggling.
Yeah.
I'm glad the Dodgers are struggling.
They are.
I'm glad they're all
team
struggling.
Still. Like, I mean, you look at Fernando Tatis and Juan Soto. Like, they're still pretty young guys. So I mean, the them struggling is like, I mean, I have a hard time believing that this is going to be like this all year.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Yeah, that's like the sleeping giant problem there when it comes to them. And the same thing with the Dodgers when they get healthy. And even in the meanwhile, the Dodgers are still winning games. They're still not awful. They're just not the Dodgers. You know, they're not 50 games above, 500 by the end of, June. But I will say that the Diamondbacks do have an opportunity once again to really pounce on this division and maybe do some things that even they weren't internally expecting to do this season with the way some of these other teams are going, especially the teams that spent a shit ton of money in the offseason. Like, that feels just that feels so good. It feels so vindicating to see that you can't just throw money at a problem and have it work itself out. But if there's any sport that is like that in, it's baseball.